Thousands take to the streets of major Russian cities today, protesting against alleged vote rigging during parliamentary elections. You're watching BBC World News. Hello and welcome. I'm Peter Dobb. Several rallies are taking place in Moscow and other Russian cities against alleged vote rigging during the parliamentary elections earlier this month. Let's just show you the scene live now, coming to us out of the Russian capital, where protesters are assembled on Sakharov Prospect in the city centre. Security is tight, with police and Interior Ministry troops gathered near the Kremlin. At the last big protest 2 weeks ago now, an estimated 50,000 people took part, and organisers expect today's turnout to be just as big. Those are the latest pictures from St. Petersburg. We'll stay with those and we'll talk to our correspondent Daniel Sanford, who went onto the streets to observe the protests in Moscow. How many people turned out, Daniel?
I think it's hard to judge at this stage. I would say they certainly had as good a turnout as they did 2 weeks ago. That was put at around the 50,000 mark, but it may have been more until we've been able to look at the aerial photographs and get a good sense of it. But I think it would have been in 50,000 plus category, and it was certainly a very determined turnout. It was a very cold day here in Moscow. Moscow is really settling in for the winter months now, and people had to endure 2 hours, 3 hours of cold. They are starting to drift home now, but they did stay there for really 3 hours on this midwinter afternoon to express their displeasure with how they felt were conducted. She felt that they'd been cheated.
Chances are, Daniel, they're not going to rerun the election. So where does this protesting momentum get us to?
Well, yeah, after the parliamentary elections being rerun almost completely now, and everyone's turning their minds on people here having their minds, first of all, to keep the pressure on the government so that there can't be the alleged widespread cheating in March that there was in early December, but also to try and see if an opposition candidate, a credible opposition candidate, can emerge from the various presidential candidates that are in the ring, because I think there's a mood here now to back anyone that isn't Vladimir Putin, and certainly amongst those on this demonstration. And if Vladimir Putin doesn't automatically become president from the first round, then he'll be in quite a difficult situation if he goes into the second round against just one other candidate, and many people in Russia are prepared to vote against him.
Daniel, thanks very much.
Tens of thousands of Russians again take to the streets, demanding a rerun of elections won by the party of Vladimir Putin. In London, I'm Mike Embley. Welcome to BBC World News. Hello. Opposition leaders, former ministers and celebrities have joined tens of thousands of people protesting in sub-zero temperatures across Russia against the result of the elections. The crowds jeered the Kremlin in a show of anger at alleged electoral fraud in this month's parliamentary poll, which Prime Minister Putin's United Russia party won despite a sharp drop in support. Russia's former leader, Mikhail Gorbachev, has now called on Prime Minister Putin to step down. Our Moscow correspondent Daniel Sanford reports.
The temperature never got above zero, but it became clear today that Moscow's newly militant voters won't give up easily. They feel that they were cheated in the elections, and they sense that the freedoms that they won at the end of the communist era are slipping away.
We believe that we can change something, and we changed it 20 years ago, and I'm sure that we can change today.
It was the biggest protest of the Vladimir Putin era, bigger than the one 2 weeks ago, and another challenge to a political establishment that had become too comfortable. The main complaint was still about cheating at the polls. New elections, they cried. It's the second time in a fortnight that the people of Moscow have braved bitter winter temperatures to come out in their tens of thousands and send a simple message to the government. We've had enough. It would be a mistake to think that this crowd represents all the Russian people. Nobody can be sure how widespread the dissent is. But Moscow hasn't seen defiance like this for decades, and now it's happening again and again. And the protesters are in a determined frame of mind.
We are waiting for transparency. We are waiting for the honesty. I think it is very, very, very important to be honest with your people.
To add to Vladimir Putin's troubles, his long-term finance minister, who only left 3 months ago, braved the hostile crowd and also called for new elections, though not straight away. First, we need to change the laws on registering political parties, he said, then have a new political campaign and fresh elections to get the government we need. Russia is already a democracy of a kind, and the government made concessions to help opposition parties earlier this week. But without overturning the whole political system, the protesters want more than just cosmetic changes.
Nobody wants a revolution. We just want fair elections and government that actually represent our interests.
The once all-powerful Vladimir Putin runs for president again in March. He'll probably still win, but it's not going to be an easy campaign. Daniel Sanford, BBC News, Moscow.